make a contribution on this affordable housing bill. Madam Speaker, as we begin this debate, I would have loved to have heard the majority leader tell us when we are getting our refund for the deductions that were done in January on monies that the court said should not have been deducted. Because, I mean, we as a house must also be alive to the fact that we operate in a country that is legal. So when the court pronounced itself and said there are no further deductions to be made, I was shocked that actually in January my pay slip reflects that the government has taken from me 1.5%, and I'm expecting my employer has also paid 1.5%. That is an illegality. So I would like to understand, first thing we need to know is when are we getting our refund, our money back? Madam Speaker, let us discuss this matter and demystify the obsession that Kenya Kwanza seems to have with the issue of houses. And Madam Speaker, it is an obsession because we are fighting to build houses for personal individuals when our children in this country do not even have classes for grade 9. And at the end of this year, junior secondary is supposed to have grade 9. Here we are talking about building houses. We are not a communist country, Madam Speaker. Communist countries are the ones that figure out personal things. We are a capitalist nation. People go to school, and then you go out there and fight for your space and get your resources. So, Madam Speaker, I feel that we seem to be losing the script. But, Madam Speaker, allow me to dispense of certain myths that have always been talked about in this housing project. First one, we have been told here over and over again in public barazas in the House that affordable housing is going to create employment. Let me tell you, Kenyans are not looking for part-time employment, casual employment. People are looking for jobs that are permanent and pensionable. Those are not the jobs that are being offered under this arrangement. The jobs that are being offered here are jobs that will be done for a period of maybe a month, 2 months, maximum 3 months. All the homes we live in were built by people. Are they building now? Are those masons still working there now? Madam Speaker, we must figure out how to create employment and stop deceiving Kenyans and telling them that this thing of housing is going to make them, permanently employed. Madam Speaker, it's also important to note that there's another myth that was peddled during the period of campaigns. And people are told it's bottom up. The people at the bottom of the bracket are going to be brought up. Madam Speaker, now it is clear that Boda Boda and Mama Mboga that were talked about during campaign trail are going to be deducted money for houses that they will probably never own because they can't afford them. Madam Speaker, that is the reality. But Madam Speaker, let's talk about some of these issues that are also constitutional. The issue of housing is actually devolved to the county governments. Fourth schedule is very clear about the responsibilities that are assigned to national government and those that are assigned to the county governments. And I want to confirm that Part 2, subsection 8 of the fourth schedule clearly indicates that housing is actually a function of county government. So, Madam Speaker, as we deal with this, we must know that the national government has only got one role, and that is policy. Not implementation, not in building houses, not in getting land from members, that is not the purpose of the national government. Madam Speaker, on the matter of the levy, because this is one of those things that even when Kenyans did public participation, they said no to. And public participation was actually stopped by the courts of law. And somehow, one of the committees of the House sneaked all over the place and carried out some arrangement of public participation, which was actually illegal, Madam Speaker, if you are to ask me. But then the reality is this, that the levy was already denounced by Kenyans. 90% of Kenyans, during the public participation on the finance bill, said no to the issue of the levy. But now, Madam Speaker, let's talk about that levy. Madam Speaker, pay-as-you-earn income tax are generalized taxes that everyone pays. Madam Speaker, excise duty, VAT, are those taxes that are charged, and only consumers of the goods and services pay that. It's like a toll on the road. It is only the user of the expressway that pays the toll. Now, why is it that you're making every Kenyan pay for houses and not every Kenyan will be a consumer? There are Kenyans, Madam Speaker, who already have mortgages. They are paying mortgages. Civil servants, teachers, public servants that are already actually so high in debt because they are paying for their mortgages. And then you are taking away 1.5% and telling them now you're going to build houses for other people. Madam Speaker, I find this very, very unfair. But Madam Speaker, as I finish, it's important to talk about the regulations, because there are regulations that will eventually be made on the basis of this bill, just in case this bill passes, because I personally am opposing it. Just in case the voting block will be used to pass this thing in the House, I want to point out some of the dangers that we face. First and foremost, what is the valuation, and how will the valuation of the houses be done? We are aware that currently some of the affordable houses are more expensive than commercial houses that are being put up by developers. And Madam Speaker, it's shocking considering the land is given for free by government and the money that is being used is taxpayers' money. How does an investor buy land and then take a loan and build a house and charge less than what is being charged by this affordable housing? It is unfortunate, but this smells of a scam, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the other issue is the repayment period. Because the law here does not talk about the repayment period. When we are making regulations, if this passes, let us be careful to name the repayment period. You cannot leave it open-ended. Because, Madam Speaker, I will tell you what I have noticed here, that there are 3 categories of houses, and they talk about the earnings of the people. And then they are saying that for you to acquire this, you must be able to afford 1/3 of your salary. And there are some people who have been named here that have earned salaries less than 20,000. A person earning 15,000, Madam Speaker, would pay 5,000 a month. A house of 3.5 million, Madam Speaker, would take them 58 years to pay. What repayment period is that? Is that even heavenly possible? Who can start working and be paying for a house for 58 years? So the repayment period must be thought through and discussed and put in the regulations so that we can address it. And finally, Madam Speaker, the Section 31, subsection B, talks about application for allocation. And it says that the agency will make decisions on any other information that may be determined. In essence, what we are doing, we are actually inappropriately delegating powers of this House to the Cabinet Secretary. Because the minute you say that they can make regulations further, they can make those decisions later, and you're not asking or compelling within the bill that this be part of the regulations, then it means you're giving them an open check. They can decide tomorrow it is tall people who will get the houses, it is short people who will get the houses, it is people of less than so many kilos. Madam Speaker, we must be very, very specific. But with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I feel that this, Madam Speaker, is a bill that we cannot support, and I oppose.